Now, you know, every time Trans Jamaican Highway comes up in our discussions, you guys always get fired up, and we can see why. The company just secured a major concession. That's the Clarendon Mandeville leg of Highway 2000, and their 2023 profits. Ooh, salivating right now. Oh yeah, things were good. And so many have been anticipating that the stock price is going to go up based on this performance. You know, they're also a great dividend paying company. Joining us now to discuss is Managing Director of Trans Jamaican Highway, Ivan Anderson. Welcome back to the show, Ivan.
Thanks, Kalila. Good evening to you, and good evening to your listeners and viewers.
Great to
Thanks for
have
having us
you.
back.
Great to have you as usual. So this show is for everyone. And just for those who are brand new to this, don't even know what Trans Jamaican Highway is, what are we talking about here? Just give us a breakdown of what you do.
So, Trans Jamaica Highway, TJH, is the company that was granted a concession for the East-West Highway. What that means is we designed the roadway, sought the financing for the roadway, and built the highway from Kingston or from Mandela all the way to Maypen and also Portmore. So we have a concession for 35 years to operate this roadway section.
So last year, you achieved record profits,
Right.
like the highest in your 23-year history. Tell
Yes.
us those numbers and how did you get there? What contributed to that?
Right. So as you said, last year we made about $23.7 million in net profit.
Wow.
The company actually
Profit, you know, not revenue, profit.
profit.
Almost 24 million US dollars
Our
in
revenues is
profits.
in excess
Wow.
of about 70 million US. So the company we had an IPO, as your listeners and viewers know, in 2020. And at about that time, we started looking at the company in terms of how we could improve the operations of the company. So we actually retained KPMG to look at the cost structure of the company and guide us as to where they thought the areas of higher cost were. And that led us to restructuring some of the companies that work for us. We bought one of the main companies who work for us in terms of doing the day-to-day operations, and we restructured the staffing of the company. And this led to about a 52% reduction in operating cost. So if you look at where we are now to where we were, say, in 2022, our cost per dollar of revenues generated is down by about 47%. And our cost per transaction is down by about 52%. These are metrics that we use to compare ourselves with other companies throughout the world. So prior to 2022, we were in the top half of companies throughout the world in terms of our cost profile. And now we are in the bottom half, right, with the best companies in the world in terms of our cost profile.
Now, if you guys are that profitable, why the need to raise toll rates? Because you just raised rates a couple weeks ago.
Right. So the toll rates are designed to obviously to continue to repay our bondholders. So as I said at the start, we finance the entire project. And so the funding that we get from our customers, we use to obviously repay our bondholders. And obviously we want to create or keep the road in excellent condition. You'll never see a pothole on the Highway 2000 network. And so keeping up, raising the toll rates allows us to do that. And it also allows us to repay our investors. So as I said at the start, in 2020, our IPO raised about $120 million. And the funds from our tolls also go to repaying our investors, which are the shareholders who are here watching this evening.
All right, so let's talk about, you know, the newest thing that has a lot of people excited, at least investors and shareholders, the new Clarendon to Williamsfield leg in
Right.
Manchester. It has been operational now for almost a year, and you guys have finally wrapped up those discussions. You are about to take over, or have you already taken over?
About to take over, yes.
About in August, right?
Right. So,
And
as I said, part of the agreement, part of our concession agreement, gives us what we call a first right of refusal. There's a first right to operate the section of highway which was built by the government of Jamaica from Maypen all the way to Williamsfield. So what we recently announced was the cabinet's approval of that transaction, where we offered approximately 20.3 million US to acquire the right to operate that section of the roadway until 2036. So we expect to take over that section of the roadway in the latter half of August. The Prime Minister confirmed that he expects tolling to start on about August the 17th. And so we're working hard now towards that deadline.
well, congratulations on bringing those negotiations to a close and winning the concession. The last time you were here, we had a hearty discussion about what the toll rate might possibly be.
Right.
Do you have an idea? Do you know now what it's going to be come August 17th, thereabouts?
Not yet, but the last time we had, as I said, we had a discussion. We indicated that we thought that the toll rates would have been below $500. We're still sticking by that target. So we expect that the toll rate, if you travel all the way from Maypen to Mandeville, will be less than 500. If you travel half of it, so we have a toll plaza in the middle of the section. If you travel half of it, then you'll pay less than $250. And these are rates for Class 1 vehicles. Below those rates, we expect to also have further discounts for customers who use tags, discount for frequent users, similar to what we have on the existing highway now.
So is that leg longer than the Vineyards leg or shorter than the Vineyards leg?
So the Vineyards leg is about 34 kilometers, and that leg is about 28 kilometers. So it's a little shorter than a Vineyards leg. That's a good comparison, Kalila.
But it's a big difference in price but Vineyards is now $730 for the toll for a class. What is that? Class 1,
right? Mm. So obviously,
so why the big discrepancy in the price if it's similar length?
Right. So we expect that.
You heard me?
I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me, Kalila?
Yes, I think you froze a little bit, but you can go ahead.
No, so yes, as you said, so the Vineyards leg is 34 kilometers. And as I said, that cost is about $730. This is shorter than that. So we expect, as I said, it to be less than $500 for the leg from Maypen to Williamsfield. So it should be significantly cheaper per kilometer than the existing Vineyards leg.
Right. So why is it cheaper per kilometer? That's what I want to know.
So the way we set tolls is that we seek to optimize the tolls in order to maximize the revenues. That's our objective. Obviously, the further away you go from large urban centers, the lower the traffic volumes become. So it's a view to trying to maximize revenues while still giving the customers good value, good and a good level of service.
Let me start taking some of the questions from the audience. I have Sean who wants to know, will any of the revenue from the new toll rate and the Williamsfield leg reflect in the upcoming financials?
So we expect maybe a few months. So if we get started in August the 17th, as we anticipate, then we'll probably have 4 months of revenue in this year's financials. But next year, obviously, we'll see the full impact of Phase 1C on the overall project, on the overall TJH revenues.
We have another question here coming from Philip, who wants to know about the timing of the buyback. Plenty shares out there, he says.
So right now, we're not thinking about buying back our shares. maybe a year and a half ago, it was one of the things that we considered. That was when our shares were trading at closer to 140, which was the IPO price. At that time, we thought that price was obviously significant below the real value of the shares. But since then, as everyone knows, the shares have more than doubled in price. So right now, we're not looking at buying back any shares.
So not necessary at this time.
Not right now.
All right. Sean has another question. Sean wants to know, is TJH looking to diversify its operations portfolio? I heard that you guys were looking to put down gas stations. How's that coming along? I do recall that conversation.
Right. So in fact, we've now signed an agreement with Rubis to construct a brand new service station on the Portmore leg. We expect that Rubis will start constructing in the next few weeks, actually. So by September, we expect that work will start. And so that's one of the areas that we're looking at. Obviously, there are other areas that we're also looking at. There are a number of potential development projects adjacent to the highway, housing projects and land adjacent to the highway, which we think we can facilitate. So those are areas that we're currently looking at as well.
Well, along those lines, question from 11 Coco Investor. What can investors expect after 2036? Is it expected that Trans Jam will apply to continue? And can we expect the addition of other types of investments? So that would be after the concession is finished.
Right. So for those of you who have seen the concession agreement would know that we actually have an option. So we have an option to extend the concession for another 35 years. That option is exercisable between 2034 and 2036. I mean, right now, I think we're likely to exercise the option, but that's something that will happen closer to the end of the concession. If the option is exercised, then the concession, TJH, would continue to operate for another 35 years after 2036.
So right now, looking at the existing legs of the highway and your existing toll collections, what's the hot spot right now? I mean, obviously, like you said earlier, the areas closest to the urban towns are going to have a lot more traffic. But have you seen any uptick in any particular area recently?
So in terms of traffic, Spanish Town bypass, partly because it's around an urban center, and partly because the Spanish Town bypass is so congested, is where we see the greatest growth in traffic. So Spanish Town is growing at about 14% year over year. Maypen Vineyards is growing at about 11%, and Maypen is growing at about 8%. But more important than traffic volume, because obviously we're not focused on traffic volumes per se, but more on revenues. Revenues are growing at Spanish Town in the order of 25%. And in fact, revenues are also growing in Maypen at 25%. So both Maypen, Spanish Town, and Vineyards have revenue growth of more than 20% year over year.
So what is causing that? Because I don't think there's a huge population boom in these areas. Is it that people from these areas are just opting to use the highway more now? And what would be causing that?
So the developments in and around Spanish Town. So if you've driven on a Spanish Town bypass recently, you'd have noticed that a lot more developments are taking place along the roadway itself. And as more developments happen along the roadway, what you have is obviously more congestion. So the traffic lights, you have people walking across the road, you have vendors, and that obviously starts at Spanish Town bypass. So you start backing up Spanish Town bypass. What then happens is people who are coming from Old Harbor no longer want to travel through Spanish Town. And similarly, people traveling from Maypen no longer want to come through Spanish Town either. So those people are now attracted onto the highway, leading to the increased growth in revenues on the other legs of the highway.
Makes sense. It's just so much more convenient. It saves you wear and tear on your vehicle. And for those who are scared of Spanish Town, well, there's that factor as well.
Not to
So
mention that
looking
factor as
at
well. Mm.
not to yeah, exactly. So looking at the future for Trans Jamaican Highway, the government has announced plans to basically have an entire major highway network across the country.
Right.
Which of those would Trans Jamaica be involved in?
So, we don't have any specific rights to any of those new developments, but obviously we have a lot of experience in those. And the one that comes to mind is obviously the section of Minister Clark has been talking about the upgrading of the North Coast Highway now from Ocho Rios, from Miami Bay, all the way down to Montego Bay to 4 lanes. That's expected to be a project similar to what we have done, where the government is looking for a concessionaire or a private sector partner who will design, build, and finance that project. So that's a number one project for us as we look into the future. The government is obviously also building the Montego Bay Bypass project. Again, that is expected to be a toll road project. And we think that we are in a prime position to be able to operate that section of roadway when completed.
Yeah, those are both very much needed areas for improvement in the road network. That's Miami Bay to Montego Bay. They've gotten so much development in the past 5 years that,
Yeah,
definitely it's time for an upgrade. So Milton wanted to know, where is it? Okay, was a comment more than a question. Milton said, gas station on Portmore Leg, nice. Some more true innovation in the making, I guess, as I'm not seeing the land where that's going to be situated.
yeah. So
Gas
the
station
land
on
is
Portmore
actually
Leg.
the land where the gas station is going to be located is actually right beside the toll plaza. So when you're going into Portmore from Kingston, as you pass the toll plaza, the land adjacent to the toll plaza will be the lands where the gas station will be built.
Okay.
It-
Roland wants to know, are there any plans to increase the Vineyards toll booth to accommodate the 11% and future increase in usage?
Excellent question. We haven't actually talked about it during this discussion, Khalida, but right now we're actually widening. We're adding new ramps on the Freetown interchange, and as part of that contract, we're actually going to be adding a new lanes at Vineyards to increase the throughput through Vineyards. We've also done a number of improvements on the other toll plazas. You may not have recognized it, but at Portmore, for example, we've added a new lane. So we've made two of the existing lanes reversible, which allows us to actually increase the number of lanes, especially during peak periods. Rather than being able to run 11 lanes, for example, eastbound.
What do you mean reversible? Well,
So
what do you mean by reversible?
right. So right now the flows through the toll plaza tend to be what we call tidal. So in the morning you have a big peak coming into town, and in the evening you have a big peak coming out of town. So what we've done at Portmore is take some of those lanes which were previously dedicated for westbound traffic, for example, in the morning. Take some of those lanes that we had westbound traffic in, reverse them so that they now go towards Kingston. And so we can actually increase the number of lanes going in Kingston in the morning. And similar in the evening, increasing the number of lanes. We also do that.
So rather than have them fixed, right?
We also do that at Vineyards and Maypen right now. So right now in the mornings, we have 5 lanes. We have a total of 8 lanes at Vineyards and 8 lanes at Maypen, and similarly 8 lanes at Spanish Town. So in the morning, we have 5 lanes coming in at each of those plazas and 3 lanes going in the other direction. And in the evening, we have the opposite, 5 lanes coming out of Kingston and 3 lanes going in. So we've done the same thing at Portmore. Portmore is our largest traffic volumes, and we've done the same thing at Portmore.
Wady over on Instagram wants to know if dividends are now semi-annual.
Right. So we gave a commitment last year to our shareholders to increase the number of times we pay dividend. So this year, for the first time, we paid dividends in April of this year, and we expect that we will also pay dividends in the second half of the year, come to at least twice for this year.
Yeah, it's usually a nice little Christmas bonus coming up at
Absolutely.
TJH.
In fact, last year
Sherwin, go ahead. Last year you paid what?
no, I'm just saying, last year we actually paid twice the amount of dividends that we paid in the year before. So we actually doubled the amount of dividends that we paid last year as we paid in the year before.
Yeah, it's a very pretty check, I can testify. Sherwin wants to know, why not acquire North-South Highway and make the fees more affordable?
So that's an opportunity. It's not one that we've had a lot of discussion on. We've had some initial discussions a few years ago. But if it comes up as something that it's possible for us, then definitely it's something we would jump at.
What would make that possible? Like, what would make that attractive for you?
Well, first of all, if the owners of the North-South wanted to sell, and obviously if they were willing to sell at a price which we thought was attractive.
Okay. I'm not going to pressure you on what that attractive price may be, because I know how business goes and negotiations go. Michael wants to know, the 20 million USD spent to acquire phase 1C. Do you think this was a good deal, and how so?
Right. So the 20 million that we spent, and for the benefit of the people who are watching and our shareholders at large, the 20 million that we're spending for acquiring phase 1C is actually coming from within the resources of TJH. It's actually coming from monies that we had set aside for payment of dividends to our shareholders. So TJH is not seeking to borrow any additional funds to invest in phase 1C. Based on analysis which we have done, we expect that the rate of return for an investor, or for the investment that TJH makes in phase 1C, will it be in excess of 13% in US dollar terms. And we think that's quite an attractive investment.
We have a comment here from Mikhail who says North-South operators won't sell. It took 500 million USD plus to build, and what, over 10 years?
Yeah, and that's obviously an issue for them. The investment in the North-South Highway is obviously a lot higher than the investment in the East-West Highway. I still believe we are significantly, at the same time, our revenues, I think, are higher than the North-South revenues. So it would take a lot for them to be able to sell it at a price that I think we would think is reasonable.
All right, well, I'm going to leave it there for this evening, Ivan. Any last words from you for our viewers?
No, we continue to improve the operations. We didn't talk about all the features that we have added, the new credit cards, accepting credit cards in a lane. We didn't talk about our WhatsApp top-ups that we will be introducing shortly. We didn't talk about our real-time updates of tolls, but those things are all coming. And we continue.
You said WhatsApp top-ups are coming?
Yes. Much the same way as when you
tell me, this is your chance. Tell us about that. When is that coming on stream?
Excuse me. So we expect that before the end of September, we should have WhatsApp top-ups in place, just making it easier for our customers to be able to top up, rather than having to download the app or go on the website. You can simply WhatsApp us, enter your credit card information, enter your card information, and we'll be able to top up your account.
Oh, quite handy. I find the app to be quite useful too, because you can do the auto top up as well. make things,
Absolutely.
it's
Sounds
very
like you use
simple. I
it
don't even
daily.
think about it. I use it every single week, a couple times a week at least. I live in Mandeville now, so I'm back and forth between there and Kingston.
Okay.
What was the other thing you said that we didn't mention?
So obviously we now have credit cards in all the lanes. You can use a credit card in every lane throughout the entire operation. We've modified all our manual lanes to also be tag lanes as well. We're moving. So right now we have our credit card machines in what we call an attended mode, meaning that there is a toll collector present. Within the next few months, we want to introduce an unattended mode credit card, being able to use a credit card in unattended mode. So you simply drive up, tap your card, the boom opens, and you go through without having to interact with anybody. All that is also coming.
Very convenient. Motorists have been asking for that for some time now. Beg you talk to your friends over at North South, because we love the convenience. We live for it. Thank you once again, Ivan.
Thank you, Kalila,
Appreciate
for
it.
having us.
Looking forward to all these developments. Not looking forward to having to pay another toll, but as a shareholder, I can't complain.
It's well worth it.
Exactly. Every time I pay you, you pay me. So